Hi guys, and welcome to this special deep dive. Before we get into it, just want to say, if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, that notification bell, and you'll be notified every time we put a video up on YouTube. And we do put a video up every single day on our socials, so make sure you follow us in all the right places. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you check out our weekly blog, which are always fun. So on to this week's deep dive. The guest I have on today has joined us a few times on the deep dive, and on the last deep dive, we did sort of allude to this product because we had actually discussed it before we did the last deep dive, and I got to see the sample and the prototype. I absolutely loved it. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's introduce our guest for today, the amazing Mr. Chris Rawlins.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm really good, and I just want to say a big congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's a fun time, isn't it?
Yeah, you look very awake for being a new father.
I have a secret for you. It's cold plunges, my friend. Cold plunges every morning. Well.
So, let's get on to this because I know you're really busy. So we're going to dive straight in with a deep dive on this. So it's a brand new product by yourself called Myriad Games, which I was lucky enough to see the prototype of before we filmed. There you go, look at that. Before we filmed the last deep dive with you. And there's a few things I love about this anyway, but I always like, and we try and do the same thing, and that is make everything about the effect believable and relevant, even when it comes to the tough case that it's in. Now, we try the same thing to try and make everything relevant, and you've done it with this. It looks like exactly what it should, so there's no questions asked.
Yeah, I'll show the took so everyone can see it. This is what it looks like on the front, on the side, and then on the back as well. So it just looks really real, and I was really happy with myself, honestly, which is funny to say, but when I had the idea, because this started as a very simple kind of stripped back alphabet deck, and then it grew into this. I'm glad you like it, man. It's a lot of fun. It's one of those things. I know it's overused in Magic sometimes, but this is really one of those things that you just, I won't have thought of many things that with alphabet cards that you might already do, and just like someone else would do the same. So I have a kind of set of tricks that I really like to do with alphabet cards, and that was why these were made and designed and why I'm sharing this. But everyone will be different, and everyone might already have a great trick they do. Like when I showed these to David Regal, he just said, "Oh, this is amazing. I want some. Please send them to me." And then he gave me that nice quote. But it's nice to share something for once that feels kind of universal. That I'm providing tricks with this, but it's really about like, it's a cool thing and go and do fun stuff with it, as opposed to, yeah.
Well, it's an alphabet deck that makes sense. It's got a purpose for being. That's the fact.
Exactly.
Unless you go to, the kiddie flashcards where you've got A and a picture of an apple, then they're easy to explain away. Not that we need to as magicians, but there's never really a question asked with those. And it's the same with this. Because of the theme, there's never a question asked. Of course it's this. That's what it is. We all know what it is worldwide.
Yeah, and I was really surprised. There's a friend of mine quite a while ago now who said I was working on a completely different version of this same thing, so just an alphabet deck, and he said, "Oh, you know that like they make one?" Right? So I was like, "No," and then found out wow, they really exist, and there is something about it's almost like with Declassified using that real document, preparing it specially to do something particular. And with Heideke, like making it like a key, but really it's a shell and stuff. it's that same thing that you guys at Alakazam to do all the time. It's the stuff that it helps it fly under the radar, doesn't it? I guess if you see this and you go, oh, it's just that word game, and then they don't possibly imagine they could be, special or have special properties about them, which obviously these do. It might have been easier for me to just buy a load of real ones of these and say they were made by me, but these really were designed and made by.
Well, they have got special features, so it's not just a deck of alphabet.
No, so all of the letters, there's every letter in there twice, so it's 52 cards. It's got a nice tuck box, all of that stuff, but it's actually got they're all marked. So we're all here, we all know what we're talking about here. So they're marked letter cards, marked alphabet cards, but they're marked in a way that I really prefer with marks. Same with things like Memorade and stuff, right? Really easy to read, but well hidden. And these are actually, I know you know the marks. I don't want to show exactly how they're marked here on camera, but you'll have no problem reading them. But the way we position the mark and the context we put the mark in, as well as the fact that they look like, how they look, just makes people, it's like boring information for people, right? So they just don't ever see it. And that's probably my favorite part. You have this kind of excitement when you use something like this, where you're just thinking like, it's right there, but you can't see it. So it's kind of novel to use as well, as well as it just being fun and then being nicely made. So yeah, it's like it's a hard one to talk about because I never like I'm selling something so much. This is just a very useful tool. I think the quality on them is immaculate. It's really high quality. The design's perfect. The context I think is perfect, and I think how they're marked is perfect because the back. I'll show you what the back looks like. That's a fully marked alphabet card, but it's just so elegant and simple looking on the back. So. And then there's other features like they have numbers on the front, which is nice because then you can do things with numbers and with letters. And because there's two of each letter, you can do things if like stuff with the Gilbert principle, or you want to start messing around with riffle shuffles and faro shuffles or washes on the table. There's just a lot of potential. You know this, Peter, but other people might not. I'm a proper card magic nerd. Like, I love it. I just don't publicly, sell myself as a card magician. And so if you are deep down that rabbit hole of card tricks, like I think most of us are, this has stuff built in as well that if you know certain things, you can apply them to this deck and really do impossible stuff. So like that, the magic bending machine trick on the instructions, the effect is that they shuffle up the letters, but really shuffle and cut and mix them around. And then they make a word and you say like, whatever word you make appears in the box, and then it happens and they lose their minds, right? But then you do it again a second time. That is like a card trick, has a really clever method. And I don't know, with this, I like combining the simple premise and the more complex methods. And then it's funny, I'm thinking, we were talking off camera about your favorite routine on here, and it's kind of the opposite. It's so simple, right, with how it worked, but it's so strong. So I don't want to talk too much. I'm going to shut up now and let you do some talk.
We'll play the trailer in a moment. I will say that, so it comes with 4 routines, but I think you hit the nail on the head where anytime you get a deck like this, there's so much you can do with it. So whatever you do with alphabet decks, you're now bringing a deck into play that, for one, is marked, so that gives you an edge anyway. But for 2, it now looks like a deck that does or should exist. People will not question it. They won't question why it's there. It's there. It's self-explanatory. But I love all the effects, to be fair. But the one that I've been playing with is, I think you call it Idio. Do you know?
Yeah, Nelson. Yeah, that's Luke. So I was talking to Luke of Volpe. We sort of launched on his group, and he also loved that trick. That's his favorite one. So I just said that. Probably the one I do the most, because you can do it from like a shuffled deck, right? It doesn't matter the order of the cards and stuff. Fun.
Yeah, really good. So I'll tell you what, shall we watch the trailer and then we'll come back and we'll speak a little bit more about it?
I will poke myself in the eyes whilst it plays and close my ears, but let me know when it's done.
Right, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, here's a trailer for Word Games. I'll press the button.
I'm Chris Rawlins, and Word Games is my brand new release. Close your eyes. We've developed a hyper-realistic prop that finally gives the alphabet deck a context that makes sense. Say what it is you're thinking. Thank you, guys. This is an extremely versatile prop that is literally only limited by your imagination. With our psychologically invisible marking system, the Word Games cards could not be faster or easier to read. The quality on these cards is impeccable. They handle like a dream. They look completely real. This is a comprehensive look at the alphabet deck and the context that makes it feel real world. Routines taught have a mental flavor, but there really is something on the tutorial for everybody. This really is the perfect context for an alphabet deck. You will learn 4 incredible routines. One is a perfect, incredible, and very interesting 3-phase demonstration of muscle reading without any of the pack. Magic Vending Machine is probably the most surprising. You introduce this idea, this concept, that you can shuffle up the cards and generate words. You are then able to produce those random things. Your spectator literally, really, truly shuffles the deck together. They cut the deck a number of times, take some random letters, and then they create in secret a word. They present that word to you and you produce the created item. He then suggests that you can do it again. And from the empty card box, you produce the thing that they ask for. With Word Games, hyper-realistic design, premium quality finish, and expertly taught professional routines, you literally cannot go wrong. I know you are going to love Word Games.
Is it over?
It's over. It's great. It's a great trailer.
I guarantee you one thing. That song will be in your head the rest of the week.
I know. I can hear it now.
Because I've only just got rid of it, and now you've reminded me of it. So thanks for that. God damn. I've been unable to sleep. Not because the song.
It's such a great premise, mate. For the alphabet deck, the premise is superb. I mean, it's.
Thank you. You know the other thing that's the other thing that isn't as obvious, I guess, is because of how they look and stuff, because of the design. And I don't push this too much when I do the tricks that are on the instructions, really. Or, you know, and I'm kind of thinking as I speak now, but it's hard to. I've not really verbalized this before, I guess. With these cards, with this deck, whatever trick you're doing, even if it doesn't feel like a game, because of how they look, it sort of does gamify everything, right? So you're almost able to get away with more procedure if you need to because of whatever method you might be doing. Or if you want to do the opposite, have something like some of the stuff on the instructions is just the zero process or anything. It feels like they just think of stuff and you know it. Or, but I always like that as well. You know, the context of making something a game that you play with a person instead of like a trick you do for them. So this, without, again, like you said, unspoken, it doesn't need to be a big script you tell. You just bring these out. They know that this is a word game. They recognize them. And you can actually play the game with these one. And then you do some cool tricks. But, you know, they're just beautiful. I've been carrying around for a while. I know people say this all the time, right? And it probably doesn't sound believable, but it's the truth. I showed them to you and around that same, I think just after I showed you at the time I had like the final samples, you know, that I was starting to play with. And I sent a few of those off to people to check and to test and stuff. And then I had the print run arrive, and they've just been here at home for months and months and months. And the reason is because honestly, I was just really enjoying having them and knowing that 3 other people in the world had it, you know, like, and they were all sworn to secrecy. So you probably have this all the time. You're always teasing on the like, oh, we've got this. Oh, it's great. Oh, don't say about that thing. And but it really was the same thing for me with this. I was really excited to share it, and I'm really happy it's finally out. But at the same time, I kind of really clung on to it for as long as I could before I sort of was like, well, I really should do something with those because I can only get through so many of them. But yeah, I'm glad you like it, man. I thought it'd be right up your street, and I remember telling you about it, and you looking excited. So I'm happy we're talking about it now.
It's great. And one thing that's just pops into my mind, and I'm going to try it actually with my deck, is I do an effect. I don't do it very often. It's one of those sort of impromptu effects if the time's right, if I'm with the right people that play cards and everything else. But I do this really impromptu poker deal. It's really simple. I get someone to shuffle up the deck. I get them to deal out 5 poker hands. We look at what's in each hand and we say, look, if you play straight, this is what you're going to end up. Luckily, I don't really play straight. Let me show you what I mean. Then I gather up all the cards. Remember, they've shuffled the deck and everything. And then I re-deal out the 5 hands. But now when I turn over mine, I've created whatever word I want to create. But but that will work, I think, great with this.
Yeah, 100%. You know what's funny is, so what you're describing, like, I think I'm on the same wavelength as you. And what took the time with this was narrowing down those tricks, because with something like this, just like with a deck of cards, there's just so much potential with it that it was actually quite hard to get down to 4 tricks. And I tried to have 4 tricks, 1 magic trick, 1 feels like a card trick, 1's muscle reading apparently, and then 1's mind reading. And it was trying to get that variety, because just like you said, when I really sat down and thought, okay, I need to film this, I actually had probably 3 or 4 times the amount that ended up on there that are tricks that I've come up with and that I really do. And it was about like trying to make them all different enough. But what you're saying is, the reason I'm saying all of this is because I think we'll talk off camera, but what you're describing is something I sometimes have done with cards and know about. And I had the same thought process. And that was one of those, oh, this would be cool with alphabet cards. It was a newer thought, not something I'd done with alphabet cards. And because of that, I didn't make it on. Everything on here is stuff I've done and tested and worked and tried and done for a long time, really. But what you're saying is great, and it will definitely work with alphabet cards, unless it's completely not what I'm thinking. But if it is, really clever and good.
We'll chat after. But the thing I'd say is, well, whenever I get a deck like this, no matter what it is, whether it's an alphabet deck, whether it's a deck with sayings on it, superheroes, whatever, I always think about which card tricks I love performing. Because you find out that when you sit there as an exercise and you've got this deck and you think, do you know what, I love performing Triumph. Even if we went to the standard slot shuffle, I could do a word reveal with this, which could happen from a shuffled deck. I just go through, cull the cards, and then just go into a slot shuffle, and now you're in Triumph and you form the person's name or whatever it is. So there's so many. I think it's a really good exercise when you get a deck like this that's not a deck of playing cards, but sit down and have a look at the tricks that you perform at the moment that you really love. And some of them will not suit an alphabet deck. Some of them are card tricks and they're not going to suit it. But you'll be surprised at either the method or the whole routine could be easily adapted with a slight change to script.
So for people who know what you're saying is dead on. And the other cool thing about this, and it's also true for anything else that works in a similar way in terms of, mark cards, there are things on Memorade on the instructions. So there's a routine called grid memory on Memorade. And the method for that is the easiest thing in the world, but it looks like your Rain Man. And over the last probably 6 or 7 months, I've been doing a hybrid of the main routine from Memorade with this grid memory trick from the Memorade project, trick release, whatever it's called. And point being, I've fused the 2 things together. So that was another thing that when I got these through finally, because you know when you get the final sample, and it can take lots of money and time and print runs and stuff to get them right. But then when you do, you still only have like 4 or 5. I usually get like 4 decks. So even then, you know, I'm sending a few out. I think I ended up with 2 for myself. So even then, it feels like, well, I need to keep these protected and safe until the print run arrives. So so when it did, I started playing around with this hybrid of these things from Memorade and realized they work really well. And then another trick of mine that one of the main things I've always used alphabet cards for is a trick of mine called one card poker, which is a really fooling trick where they really shuffle all of the deck and cut, and then they make all these choices and stuff. You could do it with alphabet cards and, just like you said, arrive at their name. And that's probably a trick of mine that I never would have thought, you know, 10, well, maybe 7 years ago when I thought of it, that it would be good, or I would never think to do it with alphabet cards. So it's exactly what you're saying is why I'm saying this. It's a good exercise. And also, you said exactly this, right? Things that you'll already be doing that will be perfect with these. You might have one really great card trick that you'll go, oh my God, that will work so well with the word games cards. And then you'll do it and you find people will respond to it more. Like, you know this, Pete, everyone knows this probably. You do a card trick when you can, there's something like Triumph, you're finishing with their name. Anything that ends with the production of their name, there's one on the instructions I know you know about, where they find their own name in some shuffled deck. The reaction is just so much stronger than if it's like 4 aces or, you know, 4 kings or so it's almost like these little tricks that you can know, like, for example, change that object and then make the reveal not 4 aces but instead be their name or whatever. And it can just elevate tricks you already do, so you don't even need to learn anything new. But the good news is that, you know this, but the tricks on the instructions they're so easy. You know, I always go for, I can have clever methods and stuff, but really when it comes down to the performance, you're doing nothing more than telling people to shuffle cards and reading marks in this case, you know, a lot of the time. So very easy, very fun, nicely made. I don't know what else there is to say. I could talk on this for hours because I love them so much, but I'm happy you like them. And I'm sure that anyone that picks them up will really enjoy playing around with them. And the best thing is, if you have like Predictable and Memorade and Word Games and a bunch of other stuff, if you have anything like that, you have a trick of mine. When are you going to bring this back, by the way? What was it called? Oh my goodness. My memory man is failing me as a new father. Oh my goodness, what was it called? It was a stack of movie posters, and it was made by Simon Shaw, and it was
it's called Director's Cut.
Director's Cut.
Available.
Okay, well, so the original edition, I bought many pieces of Magic over the years. When I started doing walk around, when I was probably, I don't know how old I was then. 13 was the first time. I don't know if it would have been out then, but you were the first Magic shop, I remember telling you this ages ago, I started shopping at. And I remember buying that when I was at uni or something and doing it to death. Like, I love that trick. And that's, you know, stuff like that, having that kicking around with stuff like this and stuff like Memorade and other things, stuff that just looks like it's, in that case, you know, a collection of films that you like. You got this on eBay, it's a collection of movie poster cards. You actually play like a snap game with them, or so alphabet cards. You have this stuff kicking around at home as well as in your bag for walk around or for shows. And it's you're just waiting for people to go like, what's that, man? What are those?
Right. So, I think that brings us to the end of this deep dive. A big thank you to me, to you, Mr. Rawlins.
For you, yeah.
No one ever thanks me, so I thought I'd just do it myself.
I appreciate it. Oh, on behalf of everyone else, I'm glad to be here.
So, Chris, we're really looking forward to, hopefully we've got these in stock now. Have we?
Not yet. No, you don't. Not yet. Oh, no, you should have them now. When this goes out, they should be there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think they might be on.
Yeah, so we should have them now. So go check them out on the website. It's called Word Games. Absolutely incredible. And Chris, thank you so much for joining me on the deep dive. We'll see you again on your next release.
You will. Thank you. It's a good one, the next one, isn't it? It's a really good one, but I don't want to say too.
Good ones.
They're all brilliant, but yeah, very excited about.
Yeah, the next one is very exciting. And you always do this. We have a conversation before we go live, and you always go, oh, have a look at this that's coming out. And, oh, can we speak about it? No.
Just learning from you. That's all.
It's great, though. But, Chris, thank you so much for joining us, mate.
Thank you. I'll see you again.
So, guys, that was the amazing Chris Rawlins, and you should go check out Word Games. It's really, really good. And like we both said, whatever card tricks you're doing, it's a really good exercise. I do it a lot whenever I get a new deck that's slightly different to a deck of cards. I sit down and I look at some of the routines that I do and see if I can adapt them to whatever deck I'm going to be using. Or alternatively, a little secret of mine is I have a few self-working card trick books on the shelves, and you usually find there's some gems in there that are very easily adaptable. All you're after is a method, and the trick will basically write itself. So that's it for me on this week's deep dive. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. You'll be notified every time we put a video up on YouTube. And we do put a video up almost every single day. So make sure you subscribe. So until the next deep dive, I'm Peter Nardi. Have a great week.